import pulls code from a module into your program. And you can import whole modules or specific elements of a module, and you can always give them an alias name or a shorthand name for when you want to use them. In this cell here, I've imported the 3 examples that I already talked about. So I imported the math module, the statistics module, and the date time, but this time I imported it as a module. In all of those scenarios here, I am importing the entirety of the module. All of the functions that belong within that module is now available for me to use. So I can either do math.square-root-4, or let me go ahead and create a new cell, or I could do print math dot, and then we can get the cosine of the angle 0. And all of those functions are available for me to use. Similarly, in the statistics, I could do statistics.standard deviation, so on and so forth. Now, the downside of that is depending on how big the module that you're trying to import, that could slow down your program a little bit. So in a lot of cases, you'll see code trying to specifically extract or explicitly import a specific function out of the library. If all that you need from the math module is the square root function, then you do not need to import the whole thing. And what that would look like is something like this. So I would do from the math library, I only want you to import the square root function. And over here, I could just do print square root 44 and execute that cell. And that is what I did earlier in the previous video when I imported just the date time and the time delta from the from the date time module. Another pattern that you'll always see is because certain library may have a very long name, or you might be using that same module name multiple times, and as programmers we tend to be lazy and we try to find the least keystrokes that we need to do one job, we can use aliases. So instead of importing statistics, I could do an alias, so I call it stats. So later on in my code, if I want to use it, instead of doing statistics.mean, I could actually just do stats. Or even further, I can just call it s, and then in that case, it would look like that. These are patterns that you'll see very often when we dive deeper into the Python language and when we start doing our analytics work. One other thing that I want to show you here is you can package your own functions into modules and import them as needed instead of putting them all in one file or all in one notebook. Over here, I created another file and I called it it2053c.py or .py. In here, I have 4 functions. One that is called get instructor name, and get course code, and get course name, and finally get all course information, which basically combines all of those using a formatted string. So from my code, from my notebook over here, I can go ahead and import it2053c, and in that case, I could do print it2053c dot get course name, and because this is a function, I need to put in the parentheses. And if I go ahead and execute this cell, we get that response over here. I could use the get all course info, execute that cell, and we get this updated value. And that's basically how I would import all the functions or all the available elements of this module. But if I only really cared about getting the all course info function, what I could do instead of importing the entire thing, I would do from it2053, I want you to import this method name here, and now I can just call it like this. It's the same thing. And one last thing, since we're talking about functions here, the style guide for Python code indicates that the first line of a function should be a doc string that briefly explains what the function does. So this line here, or these lines here, are basically what we call doc strings. Because we're using the triple double quotes, we're actually able to also provide a more detailed explanation of what the function is using multi-line strings here. And what this will also give us is if I go back to my notebook and hover over this function, I will actually get back a response or get back a tooltip that explains what the function does. So without even having to go into the function, without having to look at the code, I can see what the function does from wherever I import it.